welcome to the Lewis Nichols Show, and I'm so excited. Everybody that knows me knows that this queen of comedy is one of my favourite guests ever. So let's welcome back the amazing Elaine C Smith. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. A bit of, I think everybody's had the lurgy over the last wee while, and when we were doing the big press launch of Two Doors Down in London, I completely lost my voice, which my husband was celebrating actually, but it's coming back gradually, not helped by singing constantly in Panto and learning lines here, but good apart from that. And I'm going to be a granny again in under 4 weeks. So we had my daughter's baby shower yesterday. So it's all quite exciting and nerve-wracking at the moment. So
was it better than Sophie's baby shower with just the cupcakes?
Yes, it was a lot better than that. Don't you worry. Oh, sorry, I've just put my finger over the screen there. I'll do that and try and hold this. There we are. I'm not really good technology-wise.
We've got the new series starting in a couple of days' time, but I wanted to go back to the last series and the Christmas special, because I've got to say, for me as a viewer, and I know a lot of people share this, we're used to laughing with Christine, and you know, we expect the one-liners, but actually that Christmas special, it's just testament to you as an actress, because you moved everybody, because we went there, we were ready to start laughing, but actually you took us on this emotional journey in which we all kind of felt connected, and it made everyone realize that actually a lot of people at Christmas spend it on their own. And it was just such a special episode, and not one that, I'll be honest, that I expected. What were your thoughts on that? Because it was a completely different direction.
I thought it was a great episode from a writing point of view, that the boys had done a fantastic job. But I was slightly concerned that there was I mean, it sounds very actory, but there was an emotional journey through that could, in the wrong hands, if you like, just become mawkish and too sentimental, which is something I can't bear when shows do that, when they don't get the line right. So I remember going to Simon and Ben, the director, and saying, you've got to guide me in this. This is a really hard episode. I'm all the way through. And the great thing was that Ben had got the whole design of the coffee shop and everything brilliantly, and making it look Christmassy and festive, and that we shot it in story order. And that really helped, that there was a journey through it. I don't think we've ever had so many supporting artists or anything like that in it. So it was weird almost with that. It did feel like a really, really good and authentic coffee shop. But that journey through it wasn't Christine coming in that mood. That classic thing of a woman like Christine hides emotions, and a lot of women do that sort of tough exterior, you know, of don't you worry about me, and saying what she thinks and all of that. So I did ask them to guide me, and I would go out and go, is that too much? Am I going there? Am I not? But what was remarkable was when we got to that scene, I went out and people were crying. The makeup girls were all going, oh my God, Christine made us cry. Just that shot of looking round the coffee shop at the end at everyone else, and her pretense of, you know, no, I'm fine, don't you worry about me. And I remember Joy saying that even though she knew it, she cried when she watched it, the gorgeous Joy McAvoy, at Christine coming out and putting her hood up and then disappearing into the crowd, and her realising how many wee women like Christine across the UK were spending it on their own, that they weren't able to see their family, they weren't able to do that, or just didn't have family. So all of that, I think, really, really fed into that. I had to really trust them, if you like, that they would guide me and not make it. But I was very aware of, maybe just because I've been around so long, that, you know, the emotional journey, as actors would say. But there was that if you give it away straight away, then there's nowhere to go. And I love the fact that it took the audience somewhere they didn't expect to go. And I remember coming off, and Simon, what was gorgeous Simon Carlisle, was in tears, and he turned to me and he said, something very special happened to this programme there. And I said, do you think? And I remember I went home that night, and walked through the door, said hello to my husband, and burst into tears because it had been such a real. I had to go to a place of truth, if you like. And they say all comedy is tragedy plus time. So what you have to do is go to the real element of it, that she was lonely and that she was going to be on her own and missing her kids, or that's what she thought. And then that lovely resolution of just the text coming in saying they were going to come. But I think you're right, the audience didn't expect it. And I couldn't believe the reaction of people. You know, I was in Panto at the time, but the amount of messages and people going, oh my God, Christy made us cry, and all of that, which was, I think, was a really brave thing of the show and the writers to do.
I mean, there were still some of those classic one-liners. I'll never forget when you're walking in and you're choosing where to sit.
Oh, I love that.
Beth suggests to sit on the stools. And
I would no fucking Westlife. Yeah. I love that line. I love that line. Oh no, I would no fucking Westlife. And it was just a beautiful observation that the boys have made that Christine would say, and also the fact that Christine would even know who Westlife were.
Exactly.
And that reference is very funny. Oh, great lines in it. Great lines.
And I think it's when you order
the device of the points card of the, she's got this being really generous, but in actual fact, there's no money involved. It's just the fact that, and nobody can believe she's being that generous. That's a great device as well.
I think it's when, with the points card, you were ordering something for Gordon, and I think the line you went up to speak to her and said, "What do you have for a gay vegan?"
Gay vegetarian. Yeah, that's brilliant as well. And Kieran plays Gordon so well, and all the stuff with the interplay of the cheese in the bag and him taking that to the house, and that they were hosting for Beth and Eric and stuff like that. I thought, you know, the interplay with everyone. But I always say that, you know, that it is such an ensemble piece. Christine is not funny without everybody else, you know. Although there was a journalist last week that said they wanted an episode of just Christine going around the supermarket on her own with a trolley.
Yeah.
And I thought, actually, that's a really good idea of something that, you know, either Beth drops her off and goes off and it's Christine annoying everybody else or getting her food or deciding on commenting is a funny idea. But I just think that interplay of everyone coming in and out and Alan losing his bank card and just the atmosphere that was created. I think I knew at the time it was a really good episode. I knew when we read it, but it also came at the end of, it was ep 7, so we'd already done 6, and that's, you know, that was at least 7 weeks of 12-hour days, so we were all pretty knackered by then as well to get to, and that was another thing I wanted to make sure that we got the tone right of it all, you know.
Yeah. I've always had an idea for an episode which I think would be brilliant, which is Christine at a bingo hall, and she goes there with everybody else, but she gets very frustrated and she becomes, you know, she's shouting that she's won when actually she hasn't. I just think it would be a really good episode, Christine playing the bingo.
Yeah, indeed. There's Christine's Travels. That's the next series. That's it. Christine on a bus tour of the Highlands, you know, all of those sort of things, and how annoying she would be with everyone. But again, that's up to you know, Gregor and the team and what they decide to do with it, really. I have all the scripts are a surprise to me when they come. Simon used to phone me up and he would say things like, I'm not giving anything away, but there's an episode where you've got an eye patch, and that just makes me burst out laughing. Or this series said Christine's getting a new bathroom, and I just knew I would have screeds of stuff to learn about, which I did. You know, a Jasper toilet, a Farnborough sink, a blah 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 about what she wanted and how the minutiae of that would be really, really funny.
I mean, we spoke to Jonathan and Arabella earlier in the week, and you know, everyone's excited. The series is going on to BBC One, and rightfully so. But of course, for you as a cast and crew, it is tinged with sadness with the loss of Simon, and everybody has spoke so highly of him, and apparently all these little whispers in the ear where he would say maybe add that in or add this, and he seemed to have been such a big part, obviously, of the show. So for you, although you must be excited for what we as an audience are going to see, it's also going to be difficult, surely, because of how close you all were as a crew.
Actually, it's terrible. And I think that partially going to London for those couple of days to do the press and everything, I think it's no accident I lost my voice. I think that stress and emotion, normally you would look forward to something like that. And I purposely didn't go to see anybody or arrange to meet anybody and stuff, because I knew how hard it was going to be, you know, that it is tinged with absolute grief. Because, I mean, as you'll know from it, I adored him. I loved him. There wasn't a thing I said as Christine that I didn't wait for his remark. Or Joy described, she said she loved watching Simon watch me deliver the lines on the screens, because Simon was there every day. He was an exec producer, but he was there every day, and he would come in and whisper to me and say things like, could I offer you a, you know, in my ear, and we'd both be pissing ourselves laughing, and we would set each other off. And there were times when the floor manager had to shout to Simon, off, who was sitting watching on the screens, quiet please, because all you would hear was him going or laughing out loud at something I'd done or something we'd put in. And but he was like that. I mean, I think ironically it's Gregor that writes a lot of Christine lines. I would go up to Simon and go, that's a Carlisle line, and he'd go, no, that's a Gregor line. So it was a real team effort from the two of them. But Simon would the things would occur to him in the playing of it and what he wanted you to do, and they always were little nuggets of gold that would take you somewhere else, or think, oh, that's funny, let's do that. There was one in the Australia episode which I actually loved, and I hear that somebody said, oh, that was voted the least popular episode, and I loved that episode. I loved the line, and I do remember Simon coming in and say, when Christine says she's thinking of a holiday herself, where do you think? Oh, where are you going, Christine? Says Gordon, and I say, Hadrian's Wall. And then there is the option of an overnight city break in Carlisle, but I don't. Simon came in and said, I think it was, but I don't think I'd be up to a city break at my age or whatever. And Simon came in and said, could you change be up to cope with? Which just made, and I was on the floor, I don't think I could cope with. The idea that she would be overwhelmed by Carlisle is just fantastic. So things like that in that episode, I remember I think I did about 10 takes, much to Arabella's annoyance, because she doesn't corpse, whereas I'm a terrible giggler and corpser. So Arabella's like head girl sitting there with the face. So that makes me laugh even more, because it's like the teacher say, right, that's enough. While Johnny, myself, and Grado or whoever are all pissing ourselves laughing, and Alec. So I remember things like that. And it was actually Simon who was the instigator of the corpsing and all that. He was a real giggler and had a wonderful sense of humour. So as you can tell by all of that, we're heartbroken, actually. Speaking at his funeral, his mum asked me to speak, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. I don't know how I did it, but I wanted to do it for him and for Dorothy's mum as well. So it was really, really hard. And there was a sort of disbelief. And I think going to London for the press thing as well, it was the first time since the funeral we'd all been together. So it was hard, and still is.
I mean, when you think of shows, say, like Only Fools and Horses, of course, written by John Sullivan, you could never picture the show almost going forward after the loss of the writer. And, you know, with the show, you have two writers, two co-creators. So what do you think the future holds with the show? Or is that too early for you to even kind of contemplate right now? Because it's so raw for you all as a team.
For me, it feels too early. I think Gregor, I mean, him and Simon have written together for 25 years. He said it was like a marriage, you know, and for Greg, the biggest decision will come from Gregor. But for me at the moment, the thought of walking back onto that set without Simon there, who was there every day. Sorry, I keep trying to, I'm altering the shot here by sticking my finger somewhere, as they say in France. Anyway, yeah, for me, the thought of it makes me sort of feel sick. So I'm quite glad that I've got a diversion at the moment of Panto, and I'm doing my stand-up show next year at the Comedy Festival and here and at the Kings, and so I'll do a wee bit of Christine in there that Simon and Gregor gave me permission to do, which is great. But I think it's too early.
Well, I've got some questions from the fans of the show, which we've never done before. So these have come in from our viewers. So I'll ask as many as I can in the time that we've got left on here. So the first one is Maria Fisher, and she says, "How do you keep a straight face with some of Christine's lines?"
Well, it is very hard at times, and particularly Alex and Johnny, you know, Eric and Colin, we go back a long way. I was at drama school with Johnny and everything, so we can set each other off. And Alex Norton is a giggler and a very, very funny man, as is Johnny. So Johnny says he can see it in my face when I look about 8 when I start to giggle at something. But when you do the lines initially at the read through, and you think, oh, that's very funny, and we're all laughing. And then when you're on set, you're in makeup, and then you're on set at 8 o'clock. First sort of run at it, second run, there is, you know, round about the third, and we're all laughing. But there's nothing worse than the audience thinking that we think it's funny. You know, if we're going, wait, do you hear this? This is funny. That's hellish. So we've got to be almost in a play for today, if you like. So the laughter goes, a hysteria sets in when you've done the line so many times, round about 4:30 or 5 o'clock, when we're all needing a tea break or whatever, and suddenly the lines will become funny again. But it is very, very difficult. And I remember when Joy and Grado came on for the first time, they were fans of the program. So when they came in, me sitting as Christine saying lines, they would just piss themselves, you know, because they said they felt they were in the audience, you know, laughing at the lines. So you realize when other people laugh, that's when you realize it's funny, or we all have that. But your job is to do the lines as much justice as you can, really. So there's a bit of an old process in that you just think, right, calm it, just say the lines and go on with it. It's not for me to find it funny, it's for me to make it funny for the audience.
Kevin Wiley said, out of each and every series so far, what is your ultimate favorite Christine line?
Oh, well, there's loads of them, actually. I do love, and when I had the eye patch, I did love the, you know, bargain hunt, and shouting that out. That was very funny with the eye patch, but also lovely lines like, I caught it in the edge of the paper. You know, that's why my eyes cut. But the doctor said if it had been my take a break, it could have been a lot worse. And just those sort of things. And there are wee things that the fans get me. Say when I do cameos and things like that, you know, I'll tell you who does a good paracetamol. Morrison's is a wonderful line. Oh God, in so many series, there's I've got corkers of lines along the way, and that one, as I'd said in the Australia episode, where I say I don't think I could cope with a city break at my age. Just the wonderful joy of that, and when they say how long their flight is as well, I go 17 hours. That'll fucking destroy you, is one of my favorite. That'll fucking destroy you. She can't help herself. And all the stuff in the episode where Gordon's mum and dad come, where I'm like, you know, we like your tea because they're from Yorkshire. All those things. So that I have to say, in every series there are lines. I can't, the fans will know better than I do, but loads of lines like that I love.
One of my favorites is that episode where his parents come, just randomly, Christine. Any other homosexuals in your family, Sandra? Or is it just him? It's so inappropriate.
Exactly. That she says those things, and they come up in one of the episodes in the new series. They're there as well, and I've got, you know, that thing of explaining to Sandra what certain Scottish words mean that actually she would understand, no bother. We call that, you know, is very funny. Look out for that coming up. That's funny.
Erin O'Donnell said, what is your favorite episode that you have filmed so far? So what episode kind of stands out as a whole that you enjoyed filming?
I think probably the Christmas episode out of them all. There've been great episodes I love, and in the new series there's some really good episodes coming up. But that episode, I think, because of Simon and because of what he sort of said and after it, and because of the journey I got to go on as an actor, I think that was the most special for me.
Lorna McGrosson said, where is Christine's husband? Is she divorced? Has he passed away? And if they introduced him to the show, who would you like to play? And I think we've discussed this before, actually.
Well, I think I have been asked that before. There is a theory that he's buried out under the patio in our back garden. Or that is in the head of the writers. I have no idea where Christine O'Neill, whether she was a single parent.
Yeah.
She never mentions him, whether she's brought up Sophie on her own, whether it was late, or if there was a husband to turn up. I often thought Peter Kay would be a brilliant foil, or somebody like that. And the late Paul O'Grady said a wonderful thing. He was a huge fan of the show, and he was saying he wanted to be pat over the back. And I said, I'm sorry, but she's passed away. But you could be eyeing up the high flats if you want. And he burst out laughing and said, oh, please, can I be her? So it was a real thrill for Simon as well, because I was taken over as Miss Hannigan and Annie, and I'd taken Simon, who was a huge fan of Paul as well, to go to the show, and we met up and chatted, and it was so great for both of them, you know. So it was a real thrill that he was such a fan as well.
And the last fan question we've got from William Moore, who said, would you please consider recording a country blues album because you have such an incredible soulful voice?
I love that. Thank you so much. Funny enough, in my stand-up show, I do songs. I do songs at the end, and that's what I wanted to be before it was anything. You know, I was never going to end up in comedy or whatever. I wanted to be a singer. And when we did Naked Video all those years ago, there was always a song almost in every episode that I would sing with the late Dave McNiven and do the comedy sort of songs. But I love singing. It's a great source of joy for me. So there may be something. My husband's always saying, you know, before you pop your clogs, you should do an album. Christine sings. I can see that now. That'll be.
I love that.
That'll be the #1 hit. Just the #1.
Do you think we're ever going to see Sophie return to the show? Because that seemed like that could have been a perfect moment on the last Christmas special. She was waiting outside that coffee shop.
Well, it is that. It is. I'd love her. I just adore Sharon, but she's got a mega career, you know, and to get her to come back and she's such a fan of the show as well, to get her to come back for one day at the end of one episode, you know, in her schedule is a difficult ask. And why would you bring her back and only let her do that? You'd have to give her at least a really good episode to do, you know. So I think it was to do with timing, and sometimes is it better that you don't see it, that you don't give the audience exactly the prescriptive thing of that's what we're going to do. So I quite like the fact that that she not that Sharon wasn't there. I'd have her there anytime. But you know, I think she was off filming the Barbie movie at the time. So
What's next for you? Because obviously I know you're in Panto at the moment, but what can we expect in 2024? Have you got any other upcoming projects you can tell us about?
Well, yeah, I'm doing at the Glasgow International Comedy Festival. I'm walking just now because the lights have gone out in this room to get them back on. I'm doing my stand-up show called 65. I turned 65 this year, and there's a sort of notion, and I had no plans to do anything. I had no plans in any way to do a show, couldn't be arsed, thought, what's the point? I think post-COVID, everybody was just feeling a bit done in, and what have I got to say that's going to make any difference in this madness? And turned 65, and I think Simon passing as well made me just go, you know, maybe we should celebrate life a wee bit more. Maybe we should do that. And 65 for me is, as women were supposed to be, you know, out sitting knitting in the house and not doing anything. When I was young, 65 was forget it. And so there's a part of me going, hey, we're still here.
Yeah.
And there's quite an attack on middle-aged women and the levels of misogyny that are out there. I don't mean it's going to be serious, but that level of, you know, get back in your box, stop annoying us. You middle-aged women who've now got money and they're out there having a drink and a good time and all of that, you know, no, we're not ready to go yet. And so I decided it's a sort of retrospective on my career and stuff. So I'm doing, I think, Aberdeen, I'm doing, and then I'm doing the Glasgow Comedy Festival at the Kings. And then I'll see what I want to do. I'm actually at a fortunate point in my life where I just choose what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that was something I wanted. And we'll just see what happens. Everything's so up in the air that, and I'm focused just on being Nurse Bella Houston in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at the moment, and learning my songs and learning about, just been doing a very funny routine there with Darren and Johnny Mac. So just getting that into shape, that's where my focus is. And 2 shows a day, every day till the 7th of January. I'll be lying down for a while after that.
Do you know, it's amazing to get you back on the show, and I really, really want to do an in-person interview. I want to travel from Cheltenham up to Scotland to actually meet you, because you're such an incredible actress, but you're just hysterical. Like, every time I've interviewed you, I've left the interview just feeling on cloud 9, because you are just great.
Oh, Lewis, could you maybe phone my husband up and tell him that? He's got to live with me. He lives on the other side of me, the crab at Moni Oldgate, you know. So anyway, that's so kind of you so much. Oh, not at all, Lewis. I'd love to speak to you again.
Thank you.